All right, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Currently, the Dow is down 103, the NASDAQ up 40, S&P up one and a half, just a shade under. S&P 500 made new, at least the SPY, sorry, made new all-time highs, proceeded to make new lows. But pretty, overall, fairly active day leading into the holiday weekend. Don't forget, folks, Monday we are closed. It is President's Day. Enjoy the time off. What's going on, Guillermo, John, and Jean? Folks, if you are listening in right now, do me a favor, comment where you're checking in from. Love to give you a shout out. And of course, let's get on to the big topics. Normally on Fridays, we like to do these kind of rapid fire type of plays, but it's really important for us to really understand what's starting to happen in the markets. And obviously, with all the news that's been taking place, you would think that we could see a big shakeup, but we've been on this really strong push um, over the last few sessions. I'll pull this up really quickly here in the broad markets. Now, let me just flip it to the Qs really quick. Ooh, getting a bunch of alerts. Yeah, so the Nasdaq held at the 50 and have launched. Now you can see that they've rejected near those 52-week highs. So that's what we're waiting on. We're waiting for that breakout. But what a recovery in the Qs and the SPY, of course. You could see right there, 610.99, new all-time highs in the SPY. Now, whether that's going to lead to further progression, a lot of this has to be attributed to what's being hit in the news feed every day. A lot of tariff news, a lot of different executive orders, so it's a lot to keep up with. Leaf, shout out to Michigan. What's up, Guillermo from Texas? Gene from Texas, Austin. Love to check it out. Bob, Chicago. That's right, my hometown. I miss it dearly. We'll be back in April to check it out. John from Southeast Texas. Look at it, everybody's checking in from Texas. What's up? Shout out to Texas. My man Ty from Florida. Eric from Texas. Ali from BC. That's right. How's it going, Ali? You've had a pretty decent week. So I'm gonna just pull this back really quick. Let's take a look, folks. What's next? So, one of the things that I really want to touch up on today, and I'll bring this up in just a second, are these three stocks. Now, I'm sure everybody knows Nvidia, Apple, and SMCI. Nvidia news today. Holy cow! Uh, some of the news is flying under the water. They took on new positions in stocks. Actually, let me just do this. This will probably be easier. They took on new positions in stocks, WRD and NBIS. Okay, so these two were pumping pretty crazy. They closed NNOX, SOUN, and SERV. For those that are in my Momo room, we're very familiar with SOUN and SERV. So let's see. I'm gonna just to make sure everybody knows. Oops. Open. And here, closed. So it's based on a 13F filing. Now, that's not even the most shocking thing. The most shocking thing is they also reduced reduction, okay? And they reduced on ARM. Now, for those that are familiar, Nvidia at one point in time actually bought out ARM, but because of a lot of legal issues, most notably you know antitrust lawsuits from not only just Europe, Asia, but also the United States. They decided to not pursue, the takeover arm, or the merger of arm, but instead took on a equity position up to 9.99%. Now, when you're a 10% or holder, 10% shareholder or higher of a company, you have to actually file. You have to be listed as one of the top shareholders. And that would have, again, brought in the antitrust lawsuit. So they were at that 9.99% stake. Well, they reduced that by 43%, which is, again, pretty alarming. So they have now reduced their exposure out of ARM, their investment out of ARM. They have funneled it into WRD and BIS, and they totally closed out their investments in NNOX, SOUN, and SERV. Now, there's other stocks, of course, that have some ties to Nvidia. There's one pumping today, I couldn't remember, but nonetheless, it seems like anything that Nvidia touches generally has done really, really well in this market environment. Now we got others checking in. Sarunas, shout out to Sarunas. What up? Robert, old Hangtown, California. What up, Robert? Multi-winner of the Wheel of Name. Um, represent NorCal here. Now, the reason as well, what I wanted to bring up, so we're going to talk about these in just a second. Let's look at NVIDIA. So, what I really love, because there's two things. I wanted to talk about NVIDIA and Apple projection. Right now, the possibility of NVIDIA trading as high as 148 to 150 by next week is absolutely in the picture. So, I wanted to make sure I outline and explain why. The biggest thing, if you guys can tell, and I'm sure the projection may make it a little small, so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here. It's because they're able to close and open above the 50 SMA where they directly rejected from. And this is important. This was such a strong recovery. Number one, they got above the 200-day moving average. And since then, they've been making this push to the 50. Once they got to the 50, they got knocked back, but here they are immediately popping back up. So now, when we look at it really close, they had closed and then opened above that level and immediately used resistance as support. And if we take a look, folks, if you've had any dealings with me, any of my lessons, I talk a lot about profit pockets, which is upside without much technical resistance. Remember, technicals also give a reason for buyers to try and take profits in case the stock may pivot, and also B, subsequently sellers starting to initiate positions if they start seeing that stock respecting that key technical level. Now, on the way up, there is a gap to fill, which is also another reason why I believe NVIDIA is going to work higher, because gap fills are transparent profit targets. So here's what I'm looking for. Number one, I'm looking for NVIDIA to make this move to 142.62. That's where that gap fill is. And I feel that if NVIDIA pushes past this level, it's almost inevitable that they're going to try and work it towards this recent swing high, which is right underneath 149, but potentially trying to test this 153. We see Meta be very explosive and continue to rise, and Nvidia has been such a strong performer. Maybe perhaps Nvidia wants to join that party. Now, in relation to Apple, Apple just announced yesterday, Tim Cook tweeted, I'm excited to show you the newest member of our family on February 19th. Uh, well, anytime Apple unleashes a new product, that opens up the door for them to have now a growth cycle, right? That's really important for Apple, the growth cycle, because there's got to be a reason for investors to be excited as opposed to the regurgitation of iPhone sales. And this was really led to a really nice run and spark up. Apple, really strong maneuver yesterday, ended up closing above the 50. And the exact same thing that I want to point out in NVIDIA is taking place in the Apple, the close and open. Now, that means Apple should be looking to test 247. We're almost there. So, what's going to happen next? The idea is that if they break through this threshold, they're going to be testing this key, like psychological $250 price level. Apple as well, when we talk about bullish tendencies, since they came near that 200-day moving average, look at the demand pickup. You can see that they have been absolutely actively looking to breach resistance and open above this threshold, and as they continue to do that, support continues to follow the stock higher. So when support follows the stock up, it means that demand has ramped up to a higher degree. People are more than willing to pay at higher price points for Apple and chase the stock on up. So we're approaching this 247. So let's say 246 to 247. This is a very critical price level. Then we're going to be focusing on this 250 to 252. I think ultimately Apple could end up as high as 255 by the end of next week. So, well, it's not like a home run trade. That's still 11 more dollars than where it is right now. And again, a beloved name like Apple, it certainly could be a possibility. Now, before I get into SMCI, I just want to look at Dell really quick. Dell looks like they're spiking on news. Not sure what's happening. So, for my day traders, you're going to want to keep an eye on Dell here. Currently got some resistance at around 117 to 120, but they just breached a very critical technical level at right around this 113 price. That was the 50 SMA. They got the death cross here, about a month back. But, this is pretty interesting because if they could now spark up Dell getting through, anywhere from realistically, the resistance is layered from 120 to 125. Same thing with Dell, folks. Look at what Dell has to offer above 125. You know what? There's a very attractive gap fill that's in the picture here. That is going to be at 141.29. So, leapfrogging 125 opens the door for a pretty substantial jump, I would say, more than 10%. I don't know what's spiking. It says Dell shares are trading higher after Bloomberg reported that the company is nearing a deal to sell 5 billion in AI servers to XAI. Look at Dell making moves with Elon. Jake from Southern Arizona. What's up, Jake? Kent from Placerville. All right. And I have no idea how to pronounce this, but we got someone else from Austin and someone from Northern Indiana. All right, so that's my neck of the woods as well. Currently, right now, my neck of the woods is Colorado. All right, so now with that breaking news, I also wanted to make sure we talked about SMCI. Now, I have had a plethora of questions about SMCI. One, we've seen the stock performance get a little shaky on earnings, but they immediately got bought back up and absolutely been jumping. They're right into resistance. And you can see once in the short term, the bullish thesis for stocks is to be above this white line, which is a linear regression mean on the linear regression channel. Again, an indicator I love to use. It has great projections. The channel extensions, meaning the top and the bottom, are two standard deviations, but this linear regression mean is a very key pivot level. Stocks react and behave differently above and below. So that's really vital here. SMCI is bumping into resistance. They're going to have resistance layered from this 47 and three quarters to around 50 half. And then, of course, the 200-day moving average, which is at 53.62. But that's the thing. Once it starts getting above this level, it really does widen up. Now, there's certainly obviously these key spike levels where the stock could turn down from that we would look into. But ultimately, I think that if we could get above the 200-day moving average, it brings us some CI out of the long-term bearish state into the more longer term bullish state. And again, when stocks start to recover and get above that 200-day moving average, people think that things may be overextended. They're afraid to buy, but it's almost as if it's just a new chart and a new start for that name because institutions, retail traders, some institutions won't touch stocks that are under the 200-day, some hedge funds as well. But we could just see this spark up. So SMCI downgraded their guidance, their full year guidance of revenue by $5 billion. Okay. which is normally a death shot. Think about what happened to TTD. Their their forward guidance for the next quarter missed by 7 million, and they got a 40% haircut yesterday. So obviously, there's probably something more to it, but that's the general reason, right? They missed guidance. Well, why is SMCI up? I'll tell you why, in my opinion. It's because they've actually had financial numbers to report, and more importantly, these numbers look to be satisfactory in relation to their compliancy to NASDAQ, aka they're not going to get delisted. And so all the fear of delisting is now being thrown out the window. That in turn is now bringing investors and traders back into the stock. The question is, can we see this recovery above 50 and 53.63? I'll tell you what, if this stock could get above the 200-day moving average and anchor, meaning find acceptance and hold that as the floor, this thing is going to pump. I don't think it's going to pump like the old SMCI, but going from 53 to 60 is a very big possibility. Going from 60 to 70 over next, 2.5 weeks is a possibility. We're certainly spoiled by stocks like Meta that, can move 100 points in a month. We got to make sure we don't look at that with SMCI. Remember, they they did a split. They did a 10-for-1 split. So their float is 10 times greater than normal. But that being said, this is a retail darling, and there's a real possibility of a recovery in this name, one that I absolutely didn't think was going to happen unless they were able to fulfill the requirements and, of course, the demand of compliancy from the NASDAQ. So make sure you folks keep this on your radar, okay? That's really important. And Paul, I can't, I'm just going to say you're from Louisiana. Pancha Tallulah. I like to put that on my eggs. Timbuktu from Edward. All right, so the next topic I want to bring up, folks, TikTok versus Meta. Now, uh, if you haven't seen the news, President Trump has delayed the so-called ban on TikTok, at least for now. Well, typically that would send Meta down. We've seen it effectively work Meta lower. In fact, it happened a lot during these points, and seeing a lot of that volatility. That was also spike, pop, and drop. But Meta's been on this ungodly tear. And it's for a lot of different reasons, folks. Opening up their own data center, pushing into AI a little bit more. Remember how punished the company was when they announced expenditures for metaverse, right? They increased expenditures from 20 billion to 40 billion. Stock cratered $120, and in fact, it ended up dropping over $200 from that peak, only to recover up to 700 bucks, right? Well, this time around, they announced that they're going from 60 to $90 billion in expenditures. And guess what? The market's like, heck yeah, we love AI. I don't know where Meta's going to stop, but I got to tell you, if we're looking at which stock is going to be the next $1,000 stock, this one's going to be it. It's a real race, folks. And, this is what's really interesting. How well will Meta continue to perform? When is it going to slow down? The answer is I don't know. I don't really care. If they continue to make higher highs and they continue to finish positive for the day, let's not overthink it, folks. And I know that there are people that are itching, and I mean they are itching to buy some puts. Don't do it. Not now, at least. Next watch is going to be at 750, then 775, and then 800, 825, 850. I think you guys understand. Every $25 increments for a stock like this is where I would look at the hourly projection on the hourly chart in terms of the linear regression channel, folks. Is already projected at 783. We're already at that threshold on the daily chart. So we actually, over the next few days or next week, could see a knockback, but it's Meta. This thing is on a runaway path straight to Mars right now, folks. Enjoy the ride. All right. Now, folks, again, I don't want to, keep on getting you stuck, but I do need you folks to do two things for me. Number one, the word of the day today is candy. Candy. So do me a favor. You want your name on that wheel, spam that chat with the word candy. And as well, if you like the content and information that we are bringing to you, of course, on a daily basis, it is the great Scott Bauer. I am just sitting in for him today. But if you do like this information, do us a favor, hit the like button. If you're watching on Twitter, hit that like button. If you're watching on YouTube, you should not only hit that like button, you should also subscribe. And then there's this little bell that you see next to the subscribe button. Click on that. So anytime we go live, you're going to be notified. You don't always have to have the link. You know what I mean? Michael, did I do that right? Word of the day, candy. Yeah. Hulk smash. That's right. I appreciate you all. And I'm always grateful. I know a lot of you make it a habit now to hit that like button. So we're always grateful for the support. Again, we want to make this fun, but we want to make this informative. This is certainly information a lot of you may or may not know, but it's really important that you are at least informed because informed traders tend to be ahead of the rest of the crowd. So, what is it? What should we expect for the rest of the day? That's a great question. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm expecting a lot more chop. Unfortunately, after a bullish turn up, a lot of the times we see a lot of profit taking going into the week of a holiday weekend. Uh, there's several things for that, and there's several reasons for that. Number one, if we're in an extreme bullish environment without any, overture concerns, whether it's news from the administration, macro outlooks, who knows? We generally don't see risk off in those moments. What we'll actually see, relatively speaking, is more buying or just kind of a slow grind to the upside. But today, after we made those highs, we immediately started working lower. We saw the SPY make new lows. We've seen some splashdowns. We're kind of going back and forth. So, I think a lot of that is that there are buying participants, but there's also a lot of liquidation, a lot of profit taking happening. Going into the weekend, anything can happen, and because it's a longer 3-day weekend, it's also an additional day for news to hit the wire without the markets open, and sometimes people get really concerned about that. I expect Tuesday to be a little slow next week. As we kind of rev in, a lot of times, you know, it takes, it's like an old car where you have to warm up the engine a little bit, but we certainly can see a lot more activity take place next week. So we got the FOMC minutes out, of course. That's going to be super important. Um, let's see, leading indicators, no biggie. 7-year note, 5-year note. That's going to be important. Friday, let's see, we have PMI. Wow, we have PMI, that's going to be important. And then we have consumer sentiment on Friday of next week. And I got to tell you, last time we had the consumer sentiment report, the market, the NASDAQ in particular, I think dropped $5 or $6 instantly off of that report. So this is something kind of to be unaware of, that the consumer sentiment report has been moving the markets as of late. That's something we're just going to have to keep an eye on. It may not even be so much the consumer um, index itself, but more the year ahead inflation expectations. They usually offer up a 1 year and a 5 year. Again, folks, if you want your name on the wheel, do me a favor, ladies and germs, spam that chat with the word candy, okay? Hey, how's it going? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Yes, happy Friday. Good to hear from you as always, old Van Gal. You already know. Away, ladies and gentlemen, I want to state this. I am super grateful for you all as always. I've had some immense support from both of my rooms and my programs and just across the board. And I tell you folks in the room all the time, but I figure I get to now that we have this public forum, I just want to say how grateful I am. And we at Prosper here always try to do our best. More importantly, we try to be as helpful as we can. We're always pushing people to learn and get better and be more informed on the markets. And this is part of the process. It's not like we do this, quite honestly, for anything but to help not just our students, but the retail crowd, which is really important. That's really where I'm kind of leading to this. The retail traders, ladies and gentlemen, have been the right catalyst for a lot of different stock price movements as of late, and it's even getting more powerful. So we are the ones that are starting to get control of the markets. Now, that being said, do not fall trap into these kind of gamma squeeze alerts that you hear about. Um, don't overthink it. We hear all the time about unusual option activity and dark pool activity, and a lot of the times it doesn't lead to anything. One of the things that I'm a very big proponent on is trust what you see, right? Obviously, we're going to teach you what you need to see, but trust what you see. Don't overthink it. Don't over assume. Don't overreach. Just trade, and if the market conditions are good, quite honestly, the timing is right. This is a great market and market environment to thrive and do really well in, right? I talked about leading into 2025, how the first, 3 to 6 weeks could really set up for your calendar year. I truly believe that we're starting to see it, right? We're now getting into that, 6 week of really having the markets tell us how they feel about certain stocks or certain sectors. Right now, cloud and cybersecurity have been in high demand. Look at how CrowdStrike and Cloudflare, which is NET, have been performing, and you can see how Nvidia is starting to come back and Apple's coming back. The one kicker here is Tesla. Tesla's been a big struggle, but not that overly surprising when you kind of put two and together with the news. But we'll eventually see that stock come up. Chris, much love, man. Much love. Much love. Honestly, I get a lot of my news from Twitter or X. I follow a gentleman named Walter Bloomberg who retweets information from the Bloomberg terminal. I know that sounds crazy. And I'll give you a couple of names that you folks may want to follow. You could just check it out. If you want to follow me, I am Disciple of Trend. But Walter Bloomberg is a great source of information. They're always spinning. I also like FSMN, which is Fast Stock News, and it's two S's on the news. He also likes to alert a lot from the Bloomberg terminal. Unusual whales, they talk about unusual option activity, and same with Cheddar Flow. I know. I don't really listen to it too much. There are a few that will have interest. Oracle is another one that's really good for traders. Market Rebellion, that's the Nigerian brothers. But generally speaking, if I don't get my news from them, I get my news directly from Thinkorswim's news feed. You can see it right here as well. It's not always timely, but that news will come into picture. Here you go. That was that Dell Technologies close to $5 billion AI server deal. So hopefully that will help you folks. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's do the wheel of names. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Good luck, everybody. You already won. You're not gonna be qualified. Today's winner is it was almost Jake. But it is Jeanette. Jeanette win this week. Did she win? Is Jeanette the winner? Jeanette, you around? Jeanette, hopefully you're around. Congratulations. Please reach out to Prosper Swag at prospertrading.com. Congrats to Jeanette and congrats to everybody that's been winning. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your time and participation as always. I hope everybody has a great weekend. SSS members, even here, I'm telling you, Sunday's class is going to move to Monday. We will see you Monday. And everybody else, I will see you next time. Scott will be here on Monday. And with that, folks, I am out of here. Peace and love. Until next time.